going on? It's your boy. You already know the Prince of Botches in the building. That's right, your boy Dwayne. We here. Welcome to, I believe, actually, yeah, you know what, guys? This is the first episode of 2021. Man, a happy new year, y'all. I just really peeped that because, the last time I was with y'all, it was shout out to my boy Josh Gresham from Gresham Unleashed. We were doing our end of the year awards, you know what I'm saying? Part one and part two. We did part one on Gresham Unleashed, part two right here on the Life Sabaj podcast. So if you didn't check that out, y'all wanted to see, man, we had tons of awards we gave out to tons of talents, man, all over from every promotion. Basically who we felt deserved things such as Tag Team of the Year, Superstar of the Year, Heel of the Year, Shock of the Year, Return of the Year. Just check them all out, man. Let us know if you did not check it out. Go ahead and check out in the archives, man, and you do not want to miss those. But in the meantime, Happy New Year, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the first episode of Life's a Botch podcast in 2021. And guess what, y'all? We still on the road to 50 episodes. We are almost there. So you better believe this is the year we hit that 50 mark, and we're going to go way, way up even more from there. But y'all already know how we do. This is actually a special episode because I've got a guest in the house joining right now. So let me tell y'all about this brother, man. Well, first and foremost, let me just say there's a nice, cool little app out there, you can't tell everybody about it. So, if I'm on the airwaves and I'm exposing this, hopefully the Clubhouse gods out there don't get me in trouble on this. But you know what I'm saying? There's a nice little app out there, iPhone users only right now, called Clubhouse. So, maybe Clubhouse can sponsor your boy. You know what I'm saying? I would love to be a sponsor for y'all. So y'all just holler at me. If you hear this and you're a rep, let me know, because I'll show promotion right here on the Life's a Botch podcast and say Clubhouse, where things are exclusive and your network for entrepreneurial talents. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say what an adventure has been. I have actually been on there promoting my artistry to those of you know who about me in my artist field, and of course right here on the show telling people to just come check it out, what we do right here on the Life's a Botch podcast. And I came across this gentleman, and ironically it was a music room, but who would have thought this gentleman actually is a professional wrestler on the indie scene, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. He is an independent talent. He is a 6-year veteran. That's right, 6-year veteran. He has been all nationwide right now, grinding it out, city to city, state to state, doing his thing. And boy, let me tell you, this man has a lot of swag. This man definitely has a lot of fans out there rocking his merch, out there rocking. And this man, I don't know about y'all, but I've never seen an independent wrestler that got his own dolls. So I'm just saying, when this man is an entrepreneurial talent, he's an entrepreneurial talent. I've seen a lot of indie superstars out there grinding it out. But when you got your own doll, man, you out there branding. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the Life's a Botch podcast, independent wrestler himself, JT Farr.
Woo, 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 woo. What's going on, man? Listen, that introduction was amazing, man. I love the energy, and I feel like you could be a part of the pro wrestling world because it was the energy for me, man.
Man, come on, brother. I've actually, believe it or not, I've actually had a couple of the pros out there tell me that, Elijah Burke and me shout out to Elijah Burke for joining the show. If y'all didn't check that episode out, man, make sure y'all check that out. But he actually was saying that on the off-air conversation, like, man, you got something there, man. You need to go ahead and get into business with it. And I was like, we're gonna see what's up, man. Hopefully the podcast world can ease my way in there a little bit. But when this pandemic lightens up on us a little bit and shows start happening in a live sense where fans can attend, who knows, man? Rub some elbows, see what we can do, brother. I don't know. Or maybe you can help a brother get plugged in with this thing. We'll see. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, that's not a problem. Elijah Burke is a good friend of mine anyway, so that's not a problem, man.
Word. Yeah, man. He was like, man, you got the gift of gab, brother. I'd hate to be in the car rides with you, my man. I was like, hey, look, man, I'm a chill dude, but when it comes to wrestling, hey, I'll talk it up with the best of them, my guy. We love this. You know what I'm saying? This is
yeah.
But welcome to the show, my guy. I'm so glad to have you on this platform, my man. tell the world about yourself, man. What got you into pro wrestling? Your background, all that good stuff, man. Talk to us, man.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey, which is like an inner city. A lot of violence, a lot of bad stuff. And so I seen a lot of stuff at an early age.
Mhm.
And I found wrestling, I believe I was about 6 or 7. I found wrestling. And it was a couple things that I was into prior, like cartoons and stuff, but it was just like a whatever. But then when wrestling came into my life, it was just like, oh man, it changed my life. It was like, wow. Like, I think The Rock was the first person I saw on TV, and he was delivering a promo. I didn't even see him wrestle yet. I just heard him talking. I was just like, wow, man, this dude is a handsome dude. He looked like me.
Yeah.
He talked like me a little bit, and he had a lot of swag. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
and he drew me to him instantly. So
Come on.
now I'm like, what is this? Now I'm questioning my cousin, like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with it since then. And like, I was telling my grandma, like, hey, like my cousin was telling me, what time it came on and what day. This was Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I told my grandma, I was like, can you remind me to come in the house at 9 o'clock to watch Monday Night Raw? So it was like a everyday thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the rest was history. And then like, I remember like the MySpace days, like when I was like 11 or 12, I would hit up wrestling schools in like California and like different
Yeah.
states, and they would tell me you have to be like 18. And I just tried because I wanted to know. And then like
Uh-huh.
once I got into high school, like I didn't do any sports. I didn't do nothing, no basketball, nothing. I didn't do any sports in high school. So
Mhm.
I wanted to do wrestling, but it wasn't the wrestling that I want. But what I
Mm.
know now, I should have tried, amateur wrestling. I should have, but I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't know. Um, so when I wrote it. I graduated from high school, and I had wrestling in the back of my mind, but realistically, it just didn't seem like something that I could do. But I
Yeah.
still had it in the back of my mind, like, well, I still would like to do it at some point.
Yeah.
And then like when I enrolled in college, I completed like 2 semesters, and then I dropped out. And then at that point, I was like, all right, I need to figure out what I want to do in my life, kind of thing. And
Mhm.
and then one day I was like getting my car fixed at an AutoZone, and then it had like a flyer promoting like a local wrestling event. Now at this time, I never knew indie wrestling existed. I didn't know about. I only knew WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA,
Mhm.
those companies. I didn't realize indie wrestling existed. So it
Ah.
was promoting a local indie show, and on the
Mhm.
back of it, it had like a pro wrestling school in that area where I was living at. And I was like, a pro wrestling school? Man, I called that number so fast.
Yeah.
And I spoke to a promoter, and he was like, I can give you the trainer's number. He gave me the trainer number. I contacted the trainer. The trainer asked me, when can I come out? I was like, any day, soon as possible. He
Yeah.
gave me the days that I can come out. I came out the next day. And then, I trained, and pretty much the rest was history, man.
Come on, man. Yes, yes. Man, I love that. Let me first and foremost say that you and I are a lot alike in terms of what got us hooked. The Rock was definitely the guy that hooked me on my very first sight of what wrestling was, because I remember being from Memphis, Tennessee. Here I am with my grandmother as well, right? So I'm sitting
Wow.
there and I'm flipping through channels. Next thing I know, I'm USA Network, and like I see China, and in my mind I'm like, okay, is that a woman? Is that a man? Because she was built. So I'm like, okay, is that a woman? Is that a man? Like, and I was just like, okay, I'm trying to figure it out. But then I see The Rock cutting a promo on her, and here he is all swagged out. I see the sideburns, and I'm like, all right, now he looks kind of like a black Elvis. Is that Elvis? Who is this? And I was like, and he's just cutting it. And then next thing I know, like you said, swagged out, charisma out the world. Next thing I know, I just fell in love ever since. Got all the wrestling games over time, and just all of that good stuff. So, bro, you and I are so much alike with that. It's amazing what wrestling will do when it captures your heart from day one at a young age like that, and it just never leaves. And I'm like you, man. I can totally relate to every bit of your story right there alone because, you know, at that time, wrestling wasn't, it was cool. It was really cool because of the Attitude Era, obviously.
Mhm.
And it was funny because over time, as you got older, in like the preteens and teenage years, if you still gravitated to it, suddenly other interest was coming in for other people, and it wasn't as cool anymore. But you
Right,
still looked at it as cool, and
right.
it's like you kind of felt like you had to hide the fact that you still loved wrestling, and everybody else wasn't feeling it no more, but you're like, no, this is part of my identity, man. Like I really want to dig into what this is.
And
So
at some point, like, when I reached that teen age,
mhm,
age, everybody started to grow out of it. Obviously, this
mhm,
was during like when WWE stopped cussing and it
mhm.
became PG,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it, after a while kind of did get boring. And like, everybody started outgrowing it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I still love wrestling. And I always question, like, well, will I ever grow out of it? Like, I don't want to just grow out of it because everybody else is growing out of it, but like,
yeah,
I felt like it was getting there at some point because it became a little stale. But
yeah,
they had like a year or two where it was a little stale, and then it got hot. It got hot again.
yes, yeah,
And that's when I was like, wow, and then like, I don't know. Then when The Rock came back, then the Daniel Bryan era, then it just got
yes,
exciting to be a wrestling fan
yes,
again.
yes, indeed, indeed.
So
Bro, and that's why I said this is amazing, to see, two guys, and this is why I created this platform. To be completely honest, I created a platform like this for us, our wrestling fans out there, because in today's world where everyone is, anime lovers, and they're like, yeah, I love anime, so what? We all love anime now, or yeah, I love pro wrestling, so what? We all love pro wrestling now, like anything, you're unapologetically you in 2020, 2021, in modern day, whatever you're into that defines who you are, it's okay, and nobody's judging anymore, right? So that's a beautiful thing. But I created this platform obviously so that to the casual fan, the people who may used to watch back when when it was all cool to everybody, and they fell out of love with it, or whatever, but didn't realize, like, oh, there's truth to this. And I would love to talk with you about this because I'm sure those people, those casuals out there are like, oh yeah, man, I loved wrestling, but then I found out it was fake. And you're like, the F word, the word that and when you really learn about the business, and you're like, that's the word that you don't want to ever say around someone who really does this, because I guarantee you're gonna find out the hard way. This is far from that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely, absolutely. When I first found out, I was probably about like maybe 2 or 3 years into wrestling. I found out it was
mhm,
scripted. And when because I was teased a lot,
yeah,
about it, like it was being fake, like just a lot of the older people too.
yeah,
And it was like it was fake, and when you find out it's fake, and then like I was so hurt, because not so much that I found out that it wasn't what it was, but it was the
mhm,
fact that everybody teased me about it, and the fact that I found out that it was. But
yeah,
essentially, it made me really want to learn more about it, because I'm like, wow, I didn't fall out of love with it when I found out it was scripted.
yeah,
It just became more fascinating, and then like, once the internet started booming, you started finding out the dirt sheets, and you started
mhm,
finding, you as a fan, you thought you knew everything, but when
yeah.
when I got into the business, I was like, man, as much as I thought I knew about wrestling, I don't know
Don't
about
know it.
wrestling.
Come on,
You know
man.
what I mean? So I just became, once I became a part of the business, man, I just try to stay away from the dirt sheets, and
Yeah,
a lot of that stuff, because people think they know about wrestling, but they really don't once you become a part of the business. It's just so
yeah.
much more, to it.
So much more, man.
And like, with all the bumps and stuff, and all the stuff that I've been through wrestling training, it is not
Mhm.
easy. So
Yes.
I just encourage people, that say that it's fake and whatever they have to say. I just implore them to come train with us for one day,
Oh,
just for
one
an
day.
entire day.
One day. That's all you need. You know what I'm saying? Tell them one day. And this is coming from a guy. And again, shout out to my boy Josh Gresh. Me and my boy Josh Gresh, we're the hardest core fans ever. We critique the business, we critique the shows, but we give not in the ways of like being like super sensitive in your, IWC like fans. No, we do it in a real perspective. Like if we thought it was great, we thought it was great. If we thought there was some things could have been done better, we give it with a realistic atmosphere and we still keep a positive energy about it, right? But then the thing is, we also let people know we haven't even taken a bump. But we know, look, we would be willing to for sure, but we haven't even taken a bump. But we understand the basis that even when we haven't taken a bump, we still know, hey, this is real. You know what I'm saying? Tell them one day, just get in there and tell them to run around the ropes. Go ahead and just
Yeah,
run around the ropes and tell
yeah.
them you're not gonna feel that on the back later. It's like, oh, those ropes don't look like that. They hurt. No, those things are just
Look,
ropes.
I didn't realize, to me, like I told you before, I didn't do any sports. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I was just one of those kids who just like to flip around and jump off the trampoline, and I just
Yeah,
that's the type of stuff that I did as a kid. But
yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
I was never trained on how to do it.
Mhm.
So a lot of the stuff, flippy stuff that I know how to do now, it's still a basis from me doing it before. But now I'm a trained athlete, so now my trainers teaching me how to utilize it and do it in a way that I'm not hurting myself, I'm not hurting my opponent, kind of thing, right?
Yes, yes.
But like when I was training with guys who did college football,
Mhm.
like some of the guys that trained with us, they were college athletes. You know, it was a guy that also had a NFL tryout. You know,
Mhm.
he was in the NFL combine, and like he was struggling with some of the training. Not saying that like I was more athletic than him, but
Mhm.
the fact that he struggled and the fact that he had high training on a football level was like,
Yeah.
yes, wrestling is no joke. And wrestling
No
is
joke.
another capacity, another thing of its own, pretty much.
Come on,
So
man.
that just made me be more respectful about the business that I'm in. Cause I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, this guy, here's this guy who had a tryout for the NFL,
Come on,
but
man.
yet he's still trying to try out for wrestling. He's having a hard time. So that
Come
just
on.
made me be more optimistic. Like, yeah, this stuff isn't easy, man. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes,
So
absolutely. And I'll tell you, I learned to respect it like for real as I got older, right around the time of when Tough Enough was out. Because I knew like, okay, that's clearly giving you a clear cut behind the rope of like, regular guys and girls, and like you said, some who were natural athletes, some who weren't that athletic, and they were still, it was the non-athletic ones sometimes that outshine the athletic ones. Sometimes the athletic ones outshine the non-athletics. It just depended on what you could do and what you couldn't do. But to see like the behind the scenes of like, yo, that's what it's like taking a bump. That's what it's like. It's not as easy as it looks. You can't just monkey see, monkey do it. Like, like you might look and see, there's visual learners, like you may pick up on some things watching, but it's
mhm.
not all gravy where you're just like, oh, okay, I can do a swanton bomb. All I gotta do is just
Yeah,
climb up, just yeah. I've seen Jeff
yeah,
Hardy do it a million times. I just
yeah,
jump in.
yeah.
Nah, you
Nope,
gotta protect
nope,
yourself, buddy.
no. And look, man, it's so crazy because, like, again, I didn't have a foundation of anything. Like, a lot of it is a lot of footwork. Your footwork has to be good. So he had to teach me my footwork in the beginning because I didn't do basketball, I didn't do football, so my footwork was off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then, like, you know, it's just a lot of stuff that I thought was easy. The stuff that look easy is hard, and the stuff that look hard is easy with wrestling. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Running the
Wow.
ropes look like it's easy, but it is so hard because,
So
for
hard.
one, it's so much you have to worry about. Obviously, when you first doing it, but once it become natural and you used to, you can just do it. But learning how to do it, your footwork, obviously, then you got to worry about grabbing the ropes right before you get ready to bounce off of it to
Mm.
hit the other side of the ropes.
Yes.
It was just a lot of stuff was very complicated for me in the beginning, like just
Yeah.
even the simple stuff like the forward rolls, the back rolls, running the
Yeah.
ropes, hitting the back bump, because essentially a back bump is you throwing yourself onto the ground
Mm-hmm.
intentionally.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know what I'm saying? Most times, like, naturally, you want to stop yourself from falling.
Yeah.
But now
Absolutely.
you're taking what you're used to on a regular basis, stopping you, not trying to stop yourself from falling. You're intentionally throwing yourself to the ground. So it was just a lot of stuff that you worried about hitting your head. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's just a lot, man. It's just not easy. People think it's
It's not.
easy, but man, it's
But
a
it's
lot that
not.
goes into it.
It's not, and it just goes to show, and that's anything that we do. I love, that's what I love about, sometimes people who think anything. I just found out, I'm learning some stuff today about voice acting. And I mean, geez, I was just mind blown at what all voice actors have to go through just to perfect what their craft is in that field.
Mm.
You thinking, oh, okay, sure, I know how to animate my voice, project my voice. I took a few acting drama classes. I can, I got a home studio. I do this. That should be easy, right? No, there's a lot more to it than that. And just different things we do. Whether we're a music artist, whether we're a pro wrestler, no matter what we are in life, there's always something, and it takes a lot of work. It's
Yes.
a lot of work. So you just got to understand, nothing is ever easy. And anything that you do, if you really love it, even being something simplest as a writer, a journalist,
Hmm.
there's nothing easy about that either, guys. You
Hmm.
got to make sure your stuff is structured, make sure it's lined up. Found that out in college. So it's like, guys, you got to understand these things, man. So never go into anything thinking it's easy. But brother, with you, so talk, as you went into that phase now, like you're learning it, you're excited, you're in school, like, okay, I actually get to fulfill my dream now, something I've been watching. And then you find out the hardships are like, oh wow, this is not only painful, but it's not easy. What kept you fueled, motivated, and going mentally to say, I love this, but I got to keep going? Like, it's painful and a strain, but I got to keep going. What's kept you motivated?
Um, I think for me, the more I traveled, the more I asked questions,
Mm-hmm.
and the more I did research on guys who came before me and seeing their journey. Some people's journeys were a lot worse than my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that they overcame it and they still steadfast and they prayed about it, they just worked hard.
Mm-hmm.
The more and more, like I said, the more I learned and traveled and asked questions, I realized that everybody that been through this business had some type of struggle.
Yeah.
And they overcame it. So that's just pretty much how I looked at it. Like, if you really want it bad, you just got to keep pushing forward no matter what happens.
Come on.
And that's essentially what I did, because I'm like, man, they got through it. They overcame this, they overcame that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think if you just willing to keep moving forward and not let stuff get in the way, rather if it is through injury or rather if it is through whatever personal stuff, because we all go through stuff, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you just got to keep moving forward. So that's really how I just kept a mental mind. It was like, man, I can do it.
Yeah.
And then like it just was fun, once I really got for me, once I really got the basics of it, the foundation, once I was able to build that strong foundation,
Mm-hmm.
it was just it became easier, man, and I got more comfortable with my character. It just was so much fun, and I didn't have to
Yeah.
so much think about in terms of what I want to do in my match, like, because I already knew, you know what I mean, because I
Gotcha.
figured out who I was. So it just became fun, and once you get
Yeah.
to that point in your life, you can make magic with anybody, any wrestler.
For sure, for sure. And I love that, man, because I can even see it just off the excitement in your voice, brother, with even with the hardships and just the fact that you love it, you found yourself. So speaking of finding yourself, man, let's talk about the character a little bit, man. So how was JT Funk coming to life? Like what was the process behind the character, the name and the vision? Like how did it come over time for you, sir?
So when I first maybe like maybe like a couple months before I was making my debut, I didn't know, because
Mhm.
when you're in the business, your trainer has to give you the go ahead that you're ready, right?
Right, right.
So my trainer came to me like 2 months prior. He was like, man, I think you're ready. So start, figuring out a name and all that good stuff, because I believe you're ready.
Mhm.
So in my mind, I didn't think I was ready, but he
Yeah.
saw something in me that I didn't. So I started coming up with names. I didn't want like a first and last name like a Shawn Michaels or like a Randy. I didn't want a first and last name. I wanted something with some initials
Mhm.
and then a name, but not necessarily a last name or necessarily just something that was cool.
Yeah.
So I was just fiddling with different letters and stuff. So I was like JL, the first name of my first name and then my middle initial
Mhm.
JL. I was like, I don't like that. That's lame. So I just was funning around with different names. So I somehow got to. I got J, and then I was like, man, just filling letters. And I was like, man, I'm from Trenton, New Jersey. JT. Boom. I got JT. All right, cool, cool. I got
Okay.
JT. So
Okay.
now I'm trying to figure out the last part. All right, JT, what? JT, what? JT, what? I could not come up with nothing. So I just did Harris because that's my last name, Harris. So
Mhm.
I only wrestled under JT Harris under just one show. That was my first match ever.
Okay.
It's online. You can look it up. JT Harris.
Uh-huh.
But I kind of like erased that part of my career. So like I tried to erase because
Yeah.
oh man, I had dreads then and like I don't know. So it was
Wow.
JT Harris. I had my first match under JT Harris, and then the company that I was wrestling for, which
Mhm.
my training school was under, they
Mhm.
kind of stopped running shows, and then I started like checking out other schools because our school was slowing down. Nobody was really training. So it was kind of like, it kind of got like old after a while because it was a lot of the older guys there. They didn't want to like try new stuff with me. And I was at that part of my career where I'm like, man, I had my first match. I want to do some cool stuff now.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
didn't want to do it. So I started looking at other schools, So I told my trainer, I said, listen, is it okay if I go train at another school? Not
Mhm.
leave permanently, but just check it out. So I was training with them for a while. Then our school ended up shutting down. So I started training at another school.
Mhm.
And they really liked me. They wanted to bring me in. They was like, we want to bring you in, but we don't want to bring you in as JT Harris. The
Mm.
Uptown Funk Bruno Mars song just came out. It was literally a hot. So the promoter that brought me in, he was like, what about Funk? So he suggested the name Funk. And I suggested the Uptown Funk song to come out to because I'm like, it fit perfect. So I got the Funk name from a promoter. So he was like, what about Funk? And I was like, yes, I love it. So we did
Yeah.
JT Funk. I debuted it as JT Funk,
Mhm.
and the rest was history. But so when I debuted it, everything was cool. I had dreads at the time.
Mhm.
And like after like the second or third show, it just kind of got stale. Now I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and it was kind of frustrating because I'm like, man, I don't know what to do. I was stuck in like a tag team with this guy, and then when they split us up, I kind of like fell down the wayside. I didn't really know what to do.
Mhm.
And then there was a show that Shane Douglas was on,
Mm.
and he did like a seminar, and I asked him after the seminar was over, and he was like, I was like, hey, look, I got a question. I was like, so how did you come up with your gimmick? How did you come up with your most infamous gimmick, the franchise Shane Douglas? That was like the
Yeah.
prime of his career in ECW, right?
Come on. Yeah,
So
you know.
yeah, so I asked him, I said, how did you come up with your gimmick? So he sat me down, he said, think of your top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time, right? He said, you don't have to tell me, just think of it. I'm thinking. I'm like, all right, I got it in my mind. So he's like,
Uh-huh.
all right, keep that in mind. He said, so out of all those 5 wrestlers that you love or whatever you like about those 5 guys, think of the way they talk, think of the way they walk, think of the way they sell, think of anything that you like about those 5 guys. Just start taking from them. Take from them. Take how the way they walk, take the way they talk, and whatever you like about them. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, all right. And he said, that's basically how you find your gimmick. You just take. He said, don't do everything they do. Just take little bits and pieces from them. And he said, that's how you get your gimmick. And I was like, it didn't make sense at that time, but I was, all right. I was like, okay. So I went back to the lab and I started researching all the guys that I really like, the
Mhm.
Shawn Michaels of the world, Shelton
Mhm.
Benjamin, The
Yeah.
Rock,
Yeah.
just taking from those guys, Dolph Ziggler, all
Yeah.
those guys that I like, Daniel Bryan,
Yeah.
and I started just little by little. Okay, the seller from Dolph Ziggler I took, the facial expressions I took from The Rock, the way he
Yeah.
walks to the ring, I stole that
Yeah.
from The Rock. Shelton Benjamin, just his athleticism. Just
Yeah.
different things. I started Daniel Bryan when he's selling as a baby face. It's
Come
amazing.
on.
So just little
Yes.
things I started taking, and it didn't happen immediately, but I really had to start digging deep. Like, man, that dude, that started to make sense now. And I
Yeah.
little by little, man, it just started to take off. And then this character started to take off. And then, like, I was at a show in New York, and my theme song, somebody told me, they was like, man, you got a really good theme song. You should probably just tap in with your theme song and
Yeah.
kind of like do stuff with that. So the show in New York, the part came up, girls say to hallelujah, woo, and the crowd starts saying woo 3 times, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, yo, that's something I can like tag along to get the fans to get behind me before I even wrestle. I can just get them to say woo. And literally I took that one little piece of my gimmick, and the gimmick just like it took off. It literally took off.
Oh, come on now. Wow.
Man, you know how happy it was when I realized that I had the most coolest song on the indies
Yes.
right now without
Yes.
even wrestling. I got them hooked immediately. That song come on. Soon as they play that song, people just start doing this. Do, 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 do,
Ooh.
do. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Okay.
start getting with me, man. And I got them hooked immediately, man. So,
Man, that is amazing. Like, bro, you are so lighting fires under me right now just off of your story and come up right now. Like, dude, that is phenomenal. Shout out to you for putting on game for the franchise, for
mhm.
sure. So salute to the franchise for, those wise words. So young wrestlers out there, if you're listening, keep that in mind. All right. Words from the franchise himself, distilled to JT Funk. You see, it's work wonders from Mr. Funk here. So remember that.
Yeah.
All of you guys got some influences in the game, which was crazy because I was
Absolutely.
actually about to ask you about that. And you just hit it right on the nail. So I guess what I would ask on top of that question, now that we know some of your influences, what would you say? What you did kind of go a bit about like what about each one that you like, but what attracted you? We know what attracted you to like The Rock. So the others that you named, what attracted you to them and their style, and what about them influenced you to say, okay, they're in my top five, as the franchise mentioned to you when he said who are your top five. So talk about some of your influences and why they're your top.
I'll start with Shelton Benjamin.
Mhm.
Shelton Benjamin he's a natural athlete. Like he's so cool to watch. And when you watch him, sometimes you don't know what to expect from him. Sometimes he come
Mhm.
out of nowhere with stuff, and you like, wow, how the
Yeah.
hell does he do that? You know what I mean? And
Yes.
that's pretty much self-explanatory with Shelton Benjamin. And I
Mhm.
love his hops. Like, you know how he
Yes.
hops on a ladder, like how he hops on
Yes.
the top
Come on.
turnbuckle, his
Yes.
splashes, or just like, yes, he
Out
make
of
it
this
so
world.
effortlessly. Like, yes, he's just
Yes.
amazing. And Daniel Bryan, him as a baby face, like his facial expressions, like, and
Yes.
you know how like he's firing up and he's like nodding his head, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Without him clapping, without him trying to get the fans behind him, you want to get behind him so bad because you believe in Daniel Bryan and you feel it through his facials. You
Yeah.
know, that's kind of something that I wanted, man. That and Daniel Bryan being so smart, his believability. No matter who Daniel Bryan's wrestling against, you believe in him because you like this guy's legit.
Yes.
So
Legit.
the believability with Daniel Bryan and Shawn Michaels, man,
Mm.
he has it all. Like he's the
Yeah.
man is one of the best baby faces of all time. Like he's just good. He just have great ring psychology, great
Yes.
ring awareness. Like
Yes.
I don't even have to pretty much explain anything about. He's just, you know what I mean? Like he's
Come on.
great. Yeah. So yeah, and he's not a big guy either. You
No.
know.
No. Yeah. All of those guys, with maybe the exception of The Rock, all of
Yeah.
those guys that your favorites really arguably aren't known as big guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually a very telling situation in your own right in terms of from to those who may not actually visually see you,
Mm-hmm.
if they see like when they look you up, of course they'll see that obviously you're not probably the biggest guy either yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
yet look at it, it's not stopping you because again, the evolution of the business now, where size used to matter in that attitude era phase back then, it doesn't matter much anymore. It's like
And
now
then
just
I asked my trainer, because like I said, when I first was in training, like that was the thing that bothered me being so small, and I'm like, how do you know? Why? How would people believe me? Then he started mentioning the small guys that people
yes.
believe in, the Crispin Wise, Daniel Bryan's,
Mm-hmm.
the smaller guys, that people are taking serious. And then
Mm-hmm.
I started looking UFC and different sports, and I'm like, wow, these guys are small too, but you wouldn't fuck with them either. So it's it's
Come on.
it's pretty much believability. People have
Yeah.
to believe in you, and they have to see your facials. They have to realize that, yeah, this guy's no joke.
Come
And
on.
that was something that I was able to do. And even though I don't really, because I try to stay away from the shuck and jiving and coming
Mhm,
out and doing all that, but that's really who I am.
mhm.
But I minimize, I don't really come out shucking and jiving. I come out smiling, and I come out just high tempo. That's who I am.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
don't really do a lot of dancing. I really don't, you know?
My God, that's awesome. I mean, you are putting so much emphasis in it, man, and I love. I'm actually surprised. There's one small guy I'm surprised you didn't mention in the name of X Pac. I'm actually surprised that he didn't become one of your influences, given the Attitude Era. He was one of the smaller guys that we actually saw in there with the big shows, the Canes, the Undertakers, and all of those guys, and believability in terms of like ultimate underdog. Man, we knew like, okay, he's clearly one small dude, and yet here he is mixing it up with these guys twice his size, and
You know what's crazy? Yeah, yeah. I'm glad that you said that, because I didn't really, I I didn't really, I like X Pac back then, but I wasn't really big on X Pac. I didn't really start learning about X Pac years later in the business, and I started appreciating his work then. But by that time, I
Mhm.
had already found my guys that I really liked in terms of style.
For
But yes,
sure.
X Pac was definitely underrated. He was really
Yeah.
good. He was ahead of his time. You know what I mean? For
Oh,
a
I
small
agree.
guy, he
I
was.
totally agree. If his career was in a modern day sense, man, oh my gosh, like he no doubt he would have been WWE champion, I'm sure,
Oh
in modern day. You know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
it's no doubt about it in my mind. Like and it's but it just goes to show, man, it's a lot of things that I love about the business and its evolution. And so with you, um, let's talk about with dreams and what we aspire to do when we're in the indie scene. The ultimate goal, we know that there's side promotions. There were, at the time, the WCWs. We know that you have the TNA slash Impact Wrestlings, the AEWs, the Ring of Honors, MLWs. There's so many promotions galore these
Mm,
days for independent talents like yourself.
mm.
And as you grind up, you know that there's different promotions. You are like, yeah, I would love to be a part of this roster or that roster, but ultimately, we all know that every wrestler aspires to be in the WWE. And we noticed that you had a tryout with the WWE. So talk about your experience of what got you in that tryout and how that felt going through that experience for you, man.
Man, when I got the email, man, I just could not believe it, man. The email was like, I'm like, man, I told everybody, like, I got a trial for WWE. Like, so now I'm thinking, like, man, I have to impress them. I have to impress them. They have to sign me. They have to sign me. They have to sign me. Like,
Yes.
I so they just basically send you a list of things that they expect of you in terms of what you're expected to wear, your
Mhm.
arrival time, just different things like that. And I was so excited, man. I was so happy. I traveled with them for 3 days. It was the Money in the Bank pay-per-view of 2019. Then it was the Monday night. So it was 3 days. The first night was Sunday, which was the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. That's the night that Brock Lesnar came out and stop Ali
Surprised
from.
everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Nobody, even
man.
the people that was there, we didn't even know, because
Didn't even
I was backstage.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. Um,
Wow.
so the first night was in it was somewhere in Connecticut. Then Monday
Mhm.
Night Raw was in Albany, New York. That was the next night. And then Tuesday Night SmackDown, it was in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island. So I was there
Mhm.
for 3 days. And like I was so excited. My first day there, they have you do like you check in, they have you do like a physical.
Mhm.
Um they have you just do like, yeah, they just have you do like a quick physical.
Mhm.
And we had to be there like 1 p.m. That was the check-in time. We had to be there. So yeah, so we had to do all that. And so a lot of those guys that was there, they were indie wrestlers as well. And I met one guy there. He was like a police officer. He was like 19 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him, and he was like, I don't want to be a pro wrestler or anything. He was like, I'm just here because he was cool with Bob Backlund, so Bob Backlund got him the gig there, and so that was cool. But yeah, man, it was I was just really just watching and seeing how everything go, and from my experience, it seems like the wrestling part was the easiest part, but it's so much stuff that goes on outside of the wrestling. Like obviously
Yeah.
with the promos, you got to get with a writer, they got to tell you what to say. It's
Yeah.
just so much. It's like the wrestling part is the smallest aspect of wrestling for WWE. It's just so much other things that you have to
Yeah.
be worried about, and it was kind of nerve wracking to me just to see it, and I was just like, ah. So even
Mm-hmm.
though I was there and I was able to have my tryout, which was cool, it was such an amazing experience because you realize like this is the real deal. This is the top of the top. You just see how
Yes.
everything is being operated.
Yeah.
You see that as a business, and you see, when you see Triple H walk past, you see Vince McMahon walk past, you see all these guys that you grew up watching, and you see that they're serious about everything that they're doing, like their product, they're very serious. And the first night it was kind of cool, it was kind of chill because what I didn't know is the pay-per-views, they don't do commercial breaks, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's more laid back. Whereas Monday Night Raw, the next night, it was a little bit more strict, and they were a lot on time, a lot on time constraints.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit more like, everybody got to get on the ball kind of thing. And
Yeah.
SmackDown was kind of the same thing, but Monday Night Raw was like, it was like kind of
Mm-hmm.
like prison, like no playing around, and
Mm.
everybody's on. Yeah. So,
Come on, man.
but man, it was. But obviously, that's still my goal to be, signed by WWE. But um, being there, I was like, I don't want to go there just yet.
Just yet. I understand. No, I
Not.
understand. It sounds like it can be just off of what I've heard,
Mhm,
the connections that I've made, and
mhm,
again from some of the guests that we've had on the show who kind of shared some both on air and off air conversations. I can tell, again, they're number one for a reason, as you
mhm.
mentioned, and you can from firsthand of seeing, you can tell. Well, when you're at the top like that, of course, when you see it behind the scenes, it's like, oh, well, this is why. It's one thing to see it on TV, and then when you're actually there, it's like, oh, okay, all right,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
We ain't there yet, but we getting there. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh
yeah.
man,
Yeah,
it's
and so going into my tryout, they do your tryout. So it's two ways you get a tryout from WWE. One way is um, they um, they hire you through to do the tryout at the performance center, which
okay.
is like that's like a private invite. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to know somebody that knows somebody, or they must know who you are, and they invite you over to the performance center and try out there. Another way is through the extra talent,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much a paid gig. Where they may hire you to come in to do like a fake ambulance spot where you come out and you get beat up by the wrestlers. A security
Yeah.
guard or something like
Uh huh.
that, or somebody in like a suit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of like that, right?
Uh huh.
So yeah, so those are the two ways. But I was so excited about going into my tryout. And they have you in the arena in the actual WWE ring right
Mm-hmm.
before they open the doors for the fans. And this was Tuesday. That was the last night we were there. That was like a SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
And all the wrestlers was out there. Randy Orton was out there. Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens. I was so nervous. I'm like, oh man, they're watching me now,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of the referees were like, man, just go out there and do what you know. You know how to wrestle. Don't worry about them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much. So everybody that was there, they pretty much knew each other. All the indie wrestlers, they pretty much knew each other. So I didn't know a lot of those guys. So
Yeah.
everybody was picking who they wanted to wrestle with and stuff like that. If you know somebody and you're comfortable with their style, you can put on a good match with them regardless of where you at.
Oh, for
But
sure. Yes.
if you don't know if you don't know the person you're wrestling with, it's kind of like a 50-50. It's like a hit or miss. You may have a good match with that person, you may not. Because
Mm.
you got to depend on what they're saying. So if they saying they've been wrestling for 8 years, and then you go in there and they haven't been wrestling, and you like, man, it's no way they wrestled for 8 years, and they come in here and fumble. And
Yeah.
so it was another black guy. I didn't really know him from a can of paint, and I pretty much put our whole match together. I kept it simple as heck.
Because the referee, they was like, don't go out there and do your flips and stuff. Don't do nothing cool. Just go out there and tell a story. I'm like, okay, all
Yeah.
right, cool. So I told him it was a basic baby face versus heel. I put the entire match together. It was simple. And he said he only been wrestling for a couple years. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to just keep it simple. Because,
Uh-huh.
a lot of times if you haven't been wrestling that long and you put so much on a guy, they can't remember spots. They won't remember. So I just try to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the case. And he was like, all right. So we ran through it a couple times, like what we was going to do. And, everything seemed cool.
Mm-hmm.
We got out there, man. He forgot everything. And
Oh no.
yeah, man, I was so devastated. I literally wanted to cry because I'm like, this is my only shot. Like y'all could have, in my mind, I'm like, man, they could have put me in there with somebody that somebody who's at least more experienced. That way we can.
Yeah.
So it didn't end well. So the referee told me, he was like, just on your part, he said it looked like you knew what you were doing. You look like you're well polished, but he was like, just next time you come in here, just focus on telling the story. You could have had him work on your leg or something like that. And I was just like, sometimes it is like on that level, I didn't really want him to work my leg because I can't do my athletics. I can't impress them enough,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I was so hurt about it, man. I'm like, man, this is my only shot. But believe it or not, I don't think, looking back on it, I don't think I was ready for WWE,
Mm-hmm.
because I had to put more weight on. I was still a lot smaller then,
Yeah.
and those guys are trained athletes. They all look good. They all work out. I'm
Yeah.
just not ready. I need more time. And then it's also, I've wrestled on indies. I never did like a televised type based show.
Yeah.
So it's just another thing that you gotta be mindful of. It's just a whole lot. I just think I just need to be a little bit more polished. And
Yeah.
that's when I realized, like, okay, I gotta go back to the drawing board, and maybe I need to venture out to travel to different countries.
Yeah.
And that's really how you get established, just traveling different places. That's what
Yeah.
AJ Styles did. That's what a
Mhm.
lot of those guys did before WWE came knocking on their door.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. And you hitting it right on the nail, man. I mean, just to hear your story, I can say just again from someone who is half fan, now half media personality in this business, and hopefully, maybe even someday in the ring. Who knows, man? You just never know. I mean, I've been challenged to say, hey, go in there and just take a bump or two. Why not? Shout out to Justin LeBar, for actually saying that. But Mitch, nonetheless, with you, my man, like your story is sounding exactly like it's well on the right track for sure because I literally was watching Keith Lee's documentary on the WWE network and hearing your story is reminding me so much of how inspirational his was. And again, everybody's story is different, but just in the
Mhm.
ultimate path of think about how many times he had literally had a tryout with this company before he eventually had it. I mean, the next tryout could be the same similar case, but a little better from this one, but they
Mhm.
still don't get you in yet.
Mhm.
And then you take that sign to say, okay, I'm almost there from last time, but there's still something. And the next thing you know, JT Funk is so headlined all across the way that they got to bring you and they got to sign you. And so, my brother, I would love to say, man, it is an honor to meet you, an honor to work with you, and definitely want to bring you on more and more as you continue to progress because I am so excited. I can't wait to see just off of what you've done as a 6 year vet, 6 years in the game. And I think about some who have made it and it took them 20 years, 30 years, Lord knows how many years it took them to get to the point they get to. And you already seem like you're well on track to get there way quicker than most would think. You know what I'm saying? Now, I will ask this though with the pandemic, I know we mentioned a little off air, you were telling me how the pandemic slowed things down. How have you been dealing with how the pandemic has been? Have you taken time to, some of the independent wrestlers I've had on the show said they took this time to kind of focus on their character, focus on, maybe their body or focus on just improv, anything like that. What have you been doing from the time of when the pandemic hit up until this point currently to keep yourself motivated to further rocket yourself to the next step of your career?
Definitely. Number one was definitely I put on a lot of weight. I'm like 190 now.
Yeah.
And I'm just building muscle, and I just been eating like crazy because I work out all the time, but I just don't eat enough. So I had
Yeah.
to freaking like multiply my protein intake. You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm trying to put more weight
Yeah.
on.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, definitely, I've worked out a lot more. I've been eating a lot more. But more importantly, I've been able to do something that a lot of wrestlers haven't. I've been branding myself, and obviously with my mask I've been selling, like it all started with my mask. During the pandemic, the masks were basically a requirement. You had to wear a mask to go anywhere. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wow. I'm looking around. I'm doing my research. No other wrestlers selling masks. I can sell some JT Funk masks. You know what
Come
I mean?
on,
So
man.
boom. It started with that, and they were selling like crazy, like hotcakes. And
Yeah.
then my mind started going. I'm like, okay, these were good masks. Let me just implement some more better material brand masks. And
Yes.
I started selling those. Those were selling out. Then I'm just starting, wow. Like then it becomes so much money was coming in. I'm like, I've never made this money with wrestling. So I'm like, man, now I'm focusing on my brand. So now
Come on.
I was selling. Obviously, all wrestlers sell T-shirts, but I was selling T-shirts, hoodies. About to start releasing my beanie hats.
Yeah.
And then the dolls came. That changed the game because no other
Yes.
wrestler did that. So I'm just trying
Come
to
on.
stand out, and do things a little bit differently. So the pandemic for me, man, has been crazy. And it was a little sad and a little depressing at first because you can't wrestle, but
Mm-hmm.
man, always being able to turn a negative into a positive. That's my mindset.
Yes.
Whatever negative in life, or whatever negativities you got going on in life, just try to look at the brighter side. And
Come
that's
on.
literally what I was able to do, and still be relevant. JT Funk was still able to be relevant during this
Come on,
pandemic.
man.
So
Yeah.
um that's pretty much me. So yeah, it worked out for the best.
I love it. I love it, brother. I mean, and it again, it shows because again, this is an independent contracting business. So the fact that you were able to set up your own shop, you know what I'm saying, and still making things work and getting ready because now you're even more ready so that when you are hitting the ground running again, because it's a matter of time, this
Yeah.
that one pandemic don't stop no show. I mean, yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
setback, but you can
Mhm.
tell we're headed in the right direction here.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
for that matter, you will be back in these stands. These fans will be back in these stands, getting ready to woo with JT Funk. You know what I'm saying? Because I know they missing it. I know they missing it, and that's why I said I can't wait, brother. For sure, you already know, man. As soon as you find your way in Atlanta, let me know because you already know, brother. The Prince of Botch is ready to showcase himself with this Life's of Botch championship sitting right over here in the corner. I am
Look,
ready to come represent. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Trust me,
yeah.
I'm ready to come represent, brother.
Do
So
you mind
leave you.
showing that championship
What's
belt, man? I want to see it. Can I
of
take a look
course,
at it?
absolutely. Listen, brother, man, listen. I am so ready to break this baby out with the next live shows. I can't wait to bring this baby into full effect. Listen, this baby right here is my golden child. I cannot wait. You see the Life's a Botch right there on the side.
Ah,
You see the names, baby. Life's a Botch, baby. We are in the building. We are ready to rep. So I cannot wait for live shows to come back in full effect. Indie shows, public shows, all these promotions. I can't wait because, baby, I'm telling you, the Prince of Bots is going to be in the building, ready to interview every wrestler that is ready to be interviewed. I will stand out because I got some flashy standout stuff that, trust me, between this belt and those attires, you would think I was a talent myself because I'm ready. But
I love the energy, man. I
nonetheless,
love the
hey,
energy.
listen, this is what we do. I mean, again, it all comes from what we love, man. Pro wrestling gave your boy this energy, man. Just to come out thanks to the Ric Flairs of the world. You know what I'm saying? The Dwayne the Rock Johnsons of the world. You know what I mean? The Hulk Hogan, all of these guys and girls out here who are full of charisma, man. It has put it in me, and it's just a guy representing what I've watched and grown up seeing. You know what I'm saying? So I owe it to them. But salute to you, salute to the veterans, man. JT, brother, you are an amazing amazing gentlemen. I know the fans out there listening who are fans of Life's a Botch podcast. If you guys don't already know about JT Funk when you're listening, you definitely make sure you follow this man's journey. Make sure you support this man and get his merchandise because Lord knows I sure will. So I want to see you guys. All right. If you're a loyal listener of the Life's a Botch podcast, do the Prince of Botch a favor. Go follow my boy JT Funk. Okay. Go get his merch and go help this man get to the top where he is headed, ladies and gentlemen, because it is a matter of time before this man is on your TV set. And believe you me, when you see that name, you are gonna be like, yeah, buddy. We was with him from the Lights of Bosch podcast days, and we can't wait to see him in future reference when we both blow up. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, my brother, please, by all means, tell the people where they can find you, how they can follow you and interact with you, and let's just keep it moving, man. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, which are all the same handler at the JT Funk. That's TheJTFunk. And I'm on Facebook as JT Funk. You just type JT Funk, it can come up. I'm also on YouTube. You type up JT Funk, you can see all my matches.
Right.
And all my social media platforms, my merch is on there. You just have to follow me and you click the link, and all my stuff is there. It's literally what you see, what you get kind of thing.
Yes.
But also, I just want to give a shout out to Life's a Botch podcast for having me. You guys have been phenomenal. I love the
Thank you.
energy. I'm going to
Yes.
send you more independent wrestlers, and
Come
I'm
on.
going to put y'all on the map,
Come on.
and
Let's
we're
do
going to
it.
get y'all to the next level because,
Let's do it.
man, listen, I
Let's do
love
it.
the energy, brother. Whatever I can do to
Yes.
help you, you shoot me a message, and let's
Yes.
get it, man.
Please, let's connect, my man. Like I said, we definitely gonna talk some more off the air. Sorry, ladies and gents, I can't get y'all an after party for this episode, but best believe y'all stick with your boy, cause Dwayne, I'm like I said, I'm the Prince of the Botch, baby. You know what I'm saying? And I actually didn't even botch today, so go figure. We actually did this today with no botches, ladies and gentlemen. Cause always remember, it's not how you botch, it's the fact that when you botch, you acknowledge it, you make the best of it, and you keep it moving, baby.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
why life's a
There you
botch.
go. Yep. Hit it right on the nose, man.
Right on
Hit
the
it right on
nose.
the... Listen, you
Come
know
on,
how
man.
many botches I messed up in a match and I kept going, but
You
people
kept
don't
going.
remember the botches.
They don't. They don't. Unless it's botchamania.
Yeah.
Botchamania. But when you make botchamania, you're famous because botchamania got you, and you're like, oh, yep, I made it. I'm in there, baby. I'm in there. But aside from that, when you botch, if you made it work, brother, I'm talking about, man. Listen, it's all over. It's in the past. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
this is just a show to remind us all that we have all botched in our lifetime, and we're gonna botch sometimes. Nonetheless, though, like I said, this is your boy Dwayne, the Prince of Botch. This is my boy JT Funk, independent superstar revolutionaire, and you already know we are signing all the way out. Peace.